you are looking to learn more about IT or study for one of the many certifications, sign up for a free trial of Pluralsight. Their vast library offers many courses ranging from software development, IT operations, and cybersecurity. Please check the link in the description for more information. If you are Yo, what's going on YouTube? Zach with IT Career Questions, and I have my good friend here, Joe, and he is launching a new channel, and I talked about this before, and it's called Code Corner, and he's been a developer, programmer, whatever you want to call it, for, I don't know, longer than I could count, and he could give you more information on that. So I want to welcome Joe onto the channel, and he's been, there we go, he's been actually a personal friend of mine since we were young kids. I don't know, since we were like, what, 8, 9, 10 years old? Who knows? I don't know. It feels like we've been friends forever. Yeah, right? Isn't that terrible? Yeah, I know. I feel your pain, man. I feel your pain. So anyway, welcome to the channel. Welcome to IT Career Questions, the family. And I'm so appreciative to have you join us, and I'm excited. I'm like super pumped up because coding is it's not my thing. It's not my forte. And you, somebody's saying no audio for Joe. Yeah, now it's fixed.
I haven't said anything.
Well, you said one thing. There we go.
Oh, okay.
I fixed it. Here, can you guys hear him now? That's my bad.
Hello.
They should be good now. Yeah, so I'm super pumped up to have you on board and talk about coding and development, because like I said, it's not my thing. I don't really enjoy it too much. I think the most that I ever got into it was like HTML, PHP, and nowadays I do like Python and a little bit of PowerShell and things like that. I'd love to do more, but you are really deep in the weeds. So
yeah, that's why I'm here.
Tell us about you. I'm going to shut my mouth. It's your turn.
Well, I guess first off, yeah, super excited to be here. It's kind of a nice throwback. You're actually the one that inspired me to learn how to program. It was you and our good friend Seth who taught me basic HTML, PHP in your basement in his room, and man, it just kind of took off from there. I've been doing it ever since. Been programming since probably since I was about 12, 13. Started with super early HTML, building websites, just building simple things, telling little stories, posting silly pictures on the internet, and it's kind of taken off from there.
Yeah, I remember those days. I remember those days very well. See, can you turn up your volume a little bit? I'm going to turn up a little bit on my end.
Yeah, sure.
See, there you go.
Any better?
Yeah, it's a lot better.
All right, cool.
So you first got started very similar to me. I mean, honestly, because we kind of got involved in web design development and things like that, and then you took it kind of to a whole new level, much more than I did.
Yeah, I got pretty obsessed.
Yeah, so you went to school. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So originally, to start, I taught myself how to program before I ever went to school for it. Well, self-taught, and you taught me. Yeah, initially self-taught. Anything I could find on the internet, tutorials, videos. There weren't very many programming videos back then. Yeah, initially self-taught, and then eventually I decided in high school that I wanted to pursue programming as a career. I loved building websites, so I went to Northern Illinois University and studied computer science there. Got my bachelor's in 2008, and I actually just completed my master's in computer science from DePaul University just about 6 months ago.
Awesome. It's crazy. It's crazy, man. I'm proud of you, by the way.
Aww.
That's awesome.
Proud of you too.
And now you moved like thousands of miles away, and you're working a great job, doing some development. which I know you you've been doing for a while,
Yep.
and can you talk any about like the type of languages that you're using?
Sure. I guess initially, I guess to go through like my professional career per se, I started out as an intern working for Discover Card, doing uh, server side Java. Um, Eventually uh, moved out to Maryland and started doing front end development. And ever since then, it's been a lot of HTML, a lot of CSS, modern flavors of JavaScript, Angular. I mess around with a lot of PHP recently. Um, yeah, moved out here and I've been doing the like contractor thing for the past 6 years. Um, I have experience with a whole bunch of programming languages. Like I said, I'm kind of a master of none when it comes to programming. There's not one language in particular that I've kind of just focused on. I've tried to spread my knowledge across a lot of domains. It makes me, in my opinion, a lot more useful as a developer. There's a lot of people out there who hyper focus on one language and kind of pigeonhole themselves. So I've tried to do the opposite and learn as much as I can. So,
Is there any one particular language that you think sticks out in your skill set that um, is maybe like your strongest?
I'd have to say a combination of PHP and JavaScript. Those are the ones I've been doing the most with and I've done the most professionally with.
Well, shoot, I remember let's see. Oh, it's 2018, so it would have been almost 20 years ago. It seems like 15 years ago. I think you were dabbling with PHP then. So
Yeah.
you've been dabbling with PHP for a long time.
Yeah, I used
So
to build websites in PHP before the concept of PHP frameworks even existed.
right. I remember doing like using PHP includes for
Oh my God.
like everything, like just to make my life so much easier.
It was the coolest thing when you realized that you could use includes, right?
Yeah, that was amazing. It was so
Yeah.
cool. I was like, oh my gosh, I can update everything. Like it's so much easier now. My life is complete.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I don't know. I got sick of that stuff. And then WordPress came along and made everything much easier. So
Yeah, that's definitely the way to go if you're just looking to build a quick website. You don't really need to know much about programming. You just need to know how to manage like a content management system. They
right.
kind of took all the thought out of starting blogs.
Yeah, pretty much. Kenneth White here has a question, and he asks, how easy is it to get into coding and programming and work as a freelancer versus working for a dedicated company as an employee?
Interesting. Most of my experience is working for companies. I've tried the freelancer thing on and off. It's good for some people if that's what you're into. It's not good for others. I'd say both are pretty easy to get into. If you're looking for freelance work, there's a lot of opportunities online to find freelance work. There's websites like Elance, freelancer.com, and I'm sure there's a whole bunch of others. And there's literally just thousands of listings for people who are looking for programming work, separated by the kind of programming work. So it makes it very easy to find freelance work.
So what do you think people should start out with? Like if they're looking to get into programming, like what do you think is kind of like a good starting point?
So the first man, I can't tell you how many times people ask me, what programming language should I learn? And before I even talk about any language in particular, the first question I always ask people is, what do you want to do with that programming language? Like what you want to do with the language determines the languages you should be using, right?
Well, Joe, I would like to make a lot of money.
Oh, you would just want to make a lot of money?
Oh.
Learn Angular and React.
All right. See, so that right there answers like a lot of questions, because a lot of people are like mainly concerned about that. Like, oh, I just want to make a lot of money. I don't, they don't care about what they're gonna do with it. They just like, I want to make a ton of money. What do I need to know? So Angular and React will make you the most money right now. So there you
Yeah,
go.
the modern JavaScript languages and frameworks are definitely where it's at. It's enormously popular right now. It's what I'm doing and what I was just hired to start doing at a job I started a month ago. Um, the thing you have to be careful with about chasing the like hot languages, hot frameworks, is that sometimes they're fads, right? We've seen I've personally seen a dozen different PH or JavaScript frameworks come and go, be tossed out for better flavors, which is why I really think if you're going to learn how to program, you should learn the concepts and core of programming. And once you know that, you can really apply those core concepts to any language that's out there, whether it's something like Java, PHP, front-end JavaScript, right? Like programming is, the core concepts are all the same. The languages just interpret it in a different way.
I gotcha. Is Ruby on Rails still a thing? Is that like still like a thing, or is it like Ruby on like, I don't know, skateboards or something?
Ruby on Rails is pretty popular with like trendy startups. At least in my experience, if you're not looking to go to some young startup-y company, you're not going to find a lot of Ruby. At least from my experience, I'm in a very Java-centric world where I live out here. There's not a whole lot of startups or things like that. Yeah, it's around. I don't know if it's as popular anymore. A lot of people have started using Node and Express as their server-side languages just because they can write JavaScript for their front end and their back end. So you only need to hire a JavaScript developer to now do front end and back end work. So
do you have experience with Docker or anything similar?
Just a little bit. I've dabbled and deployed some Docker images and stuff. I haven't done a whole lot with it. I know it's super powerful and it makes it very easy to deploy VMs to anywhere you want.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I've noticed with it is there's a lot of overhead associated with it because of all the extra power you need just for managing these virtual machines running on other machines. So it comes with pluses and minuses, I'd say.
Right. I mean, everything is being virtualized nowadays. So I've been looking a lot into Docker, and I'll have a video coming out on that pretty soon. So I was just curious. Yeah, I think Docker's like really cool. The whole idea behind it seems like really awesome. So
yep.
It's cool that you've had some experience in that. So that's always cool to hear.
Yeah, I've prototyped it for my previous job just to see if we could deploy our website using Docker. It never took off, but it was kind of fun to do.
That's the thing about working with technology. Everything's always kind of fun to do. when you find something that like piques your interest a little bit, sometimes you just kind of like go down this rabbit hole of like, all right, this is going to be kind of fun. I'm going to enjoy it. And then you find out that like, well, I don't really have a practical use for that. I don't know why I just spent all of my time doing that. But at least I tried it, you know?
Yeah. That's how I got started. I learned to program and it was just a rabbit hole. I just got obsessed with the idea that I could build and deploy websites in minutes that millions of people could potentially see and interact with.
Right.
So
right.
I understand.
Yeah. That always like interests me too. Like, and still to this day, like it's kind of crazy to me how, literally anybody could go online and build a website within a matter of minutes, and it could be out and millions of people can see it, and it's not really that hard. I mean, of course, WordPress makes it a lot like really easy, but even still, there's a lot of other ways.
Yeah, I mean, there's even the kind of drag and drop website builders these days.
Oh yeah, like Wix and shoot whatever else is out there. Yeah,
stuff like that just pains me.
Yeah,
it hurts the true developer in me.
Yeah.
You drag and drop a website that's just as good as something I built by hand.
Yeah, well, I mean, even like WordPress, like it hurts me sometimes too. But it's like still to this day, I could like open up Notepad and I could probably code an entire website like by
Oh
hand
yeah,
in
definitely.
Notepad. Like that's like always a good feeling. I think I'd be pretty proud of that.
I'm pretty sure that's what we used to do, didn't we? We used to just rock straight up Notepad.
We did.
Yeah, building those blogs where we shared like little silly stories with all of our friends.
Yeah, and stupid stuff. Back when the internet was cool. Kenneth White says, can you explain the difference between scripting and coding programming? I have heard there's a big difference. Thank you.
So you probably know more about scripting than I do.
Yeah, scripting is, when I think of scripting, I'm thinking PowerShell, Bash, so, any type of, command line, interface that you're going to be in. That's more scripting than coding. Coding has, all these different frameworks and whatever else behind it that you'd have more of the terms, I think, that could describe them better than I could. But yeah, scripting is basically really short, a lot of times short kind of scripts, if you will, that do something really specific. Where coding, programming, I mean, you develop an entire application or an entire website based around whatever you're building there.
Yeah, I would say that coding and programming are like the high level concepts, right?
Yep.
Scripting is a version of coding. And like you said, scripting in my mind is a very short block of code executed to accomplish a very specific task, right? Like you have a whole bunch of pictures in a directory that all need to be renamed.
Yep.
Creating a script is something you execute once, it does all these things, and then it's over.
Yep. Yeah, where if you're programming something, this could be an ongoing type of application or service that's maintained through whatever you just developed through your code or whatever you programmed. So I know like a lot of stuff that I would use, that if you would say scripting, is like creating Active Directory accounts. I could run that through PowerShell. I could import an Excel sheet that has users. It would have like their first name, last name. The username would be generated from their first name, last name. Create a password. It would all be run through PowerShell. It's like you run it and it's done. One and done. So thank you, NC. So that's kind of scripting and programming. And that's kind of like and this was our, quick little on the fly explanation of the difference.
Douglas Brown asked, does the environment you use matter? I'm wondering if that's a Mac versus Windows type environment.
Yeah. Can you be more specific on that? Somebody also asked if they're interested in computer security and or ethical hacker, what would be a starting point? NC, I have a couple videos on that I just put out recently. And instead of me like repeating myself, I think it'd be best if you went through those videos, just because you'll have all the information there rather than me, repeating myself. Let's see.
Banana Nut says, for someone brand new to coding, what would be the starting course for beginning that journey? I would say, like I mentioned before in the stream, if you're at all interested in coding, the first question you should ask yourself is what you want to do. Like, what do you want to build? What do you want to accomplish with programming?
Hi, this is Thomas.
I would start there. If your answer is I want to build websites, you should start looking up programming languages associated with building websites. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, some of the modern frameworks, Angular, React. If you're interested in building enterprise applications, I would start Googling Java Enterprise Edition. So that's where I would start if you're trying to teach yourself. If you're looking to get into programming in terms of like education, I would definitely research the schools in your area that offer computer science classes. I'm sure there's tons near you. And if there are none near you, there are definitely a lot of online schools that you could get programming, computer science education from. My entire master's degree was all online. I never attended a single class to get my master's in person. So there's definitely a lot of ways to get started. Just depends on what you want to do.
Sorry, I was looking up these links. So I can,
no problem.
listen. So Douglas said Mac. So I saw when I was looking through some pictures of you earlier, trying to grab a picture for a thumbnail, that you have a Mac or had a Mac.
I actually have both.
Yeah. So I mean, it really doesn't. I don't think matter, because there's a lot of environments that, you know, whatever you're programming in, there's some type of application that you're using that it's read write in both.
Yep.
You know, I don't know what it is that you're using when you're coding. If you're just using like Sublime Text or something, or Notepad++, or, you know, whatever it is, but, you know, those are all kind of universal, really.
Yeah, in terms of environment, I'd say it really doesn't matter. You can accomplish the same things on a Mac you can on a PC, you can on a Linux desktop, right? You could build a website on any of them. You can use a text editor, IDE on any of them. So it's really more what you're comfortable with.
Right.
The one thing I would recommend is if you're going to be doing, rephrase, if you're going to try programming on a personal computer, I would recommend trying to set up like some sort of virtual computer that you could do that programming on, because sometimes when you install programming languages, they install a whole bunch of dependencies and random things on your computer. So having that separate from your daily driving computer, I think, is pretty important, because otherwise you can sometimes wreck your normal computer. So all of my development that I do for my day-to-day job is all on like a Linux server, completely separate from my desktop, so that if anything goes wrong, it doesn't interfere with all the other work things I have to do.
Right. And so like, even like right now, from like my consulting job, like I'm doing mobile device management, and I bring in my Mac and I remote to Windows servers. So, yep. You know, it's whatever the environment you're working with kind of offers, or, yeah, you know, tells you that you're going to use.
Yeah, for most programming languages, or at least frameworks, languages, they give you instructions on how to set them up in just about any environment. Trust the Process asked, how often do you use Stack Overflow? Every day. Multiple times per day.
There you go, day.
Per day, all day.
Nasty DM says that they really like my channel and they're working on their associates in information technology. Good luck to you, and thank you. How complex, let's see, what is it? The Lot J, how complex should their portfolio projects be? I cannot talk today.
So I'm guessing he's more talking about like trying to find freelance work. So
that question kind of relates to, I think, that first video that you put on your channel, in a way. You know, when you're working on your portfolio and really trying to determine what you should be putting on there. Don't you agree?
Oh, I was taking that as like, I'm a freelance developer. I have like joetito.com, and here I'm going to show off all of my work. I wasn't thinking of that as like a resume, but I guess you can go with it that way too.
No, yeah, I was kind of thinking more of a resume-ish. But yeah, I mean, you could use it, I guess, both ways. But I mean, yeah, so I could make a development portfolio, you know, in a few hours, and just copy a bunch of people's codes, and I could say, you know, I did this, you know. But in reality, like, I just went on GitHub and stole a bunch of people's code and
yeah,
made it look like my own, you know.
Yeah, I'd say if you're setting up an online portfolio, definitely just have enough on there to give whichever client or person you're interacting with just enough knowledge and examples of the work you can do to let them know you're capable of doing that. If you've done, say, 100 projects, put your best 10 up there. Link to things, link to websites you've built, take screenshots if you can't link it, or if you have some sort of like privacy thing. And then in terms of, if you take that the other way, going to resume, I'd say just put the things on there that you've mastered, and be able to talk about relevant experience you have with those skills.
What if I just learned like PHP yesterday? Should I put that on there?
No, okay. Please don't. Yeah, if you can't talk about it for 5 minutes, don't put it on there.
Awesome. Just wanted to make sure that was clear across the board. Let's see. Kenneth White says they're completely self-taught, A+, Network Plus, Security Plus. Joe mentioned he was self-taught. What resources does he like best online to learn his trade?
So when I was teaching myself, a lot of it was just raw documentation from, like php.net back then.
Hey, do you still have my HTML for Dummies book, bro?
Probably not.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh my God, that'd be fun to go back and look at that.
Sorry.
How to use the blink tag.
Oh God, get out.
Yeah, there's a lot of, when I didn't have a lot of great resources initially when I started teaching myself. So it was mostly forum posts, whatever tutorials I could find online. There was no videos. Stack Overflow, I think, existed back then. So just looking at examples of other code. And a lot of it was just trial and error. You try something, it works or it doesn't. And you just kind of keep iterating on that until you learn. But then eventually I went to school. So I got a proper education that taught me the core concepts of programming. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, things have changed so much in the last, 5 years, 3 years even, with the information that's available to you.
Yeah, now there's thousands and thousands and thousands of videos and tutorials, and places like Udemy that offer courses for super cheap, or there's coding boot camps. I saw somebody else had a question about that down below. Yeah, there's a lot more resources out there these days.
Yeah, let's see. Revisualize is looking to move from IT to another section of IT, focus on development and learning app development. So what do you recommend? Have you seen many people do that in your experience through the field so far?
From moving from like more IT to development?
Yeah.
Here and there, not so many as you think.
Yeah. I've only seen I think maybe 2 people that I've worked with that made their way to development roles.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen often. Not a lot of people want to do that, but you have people who want to do that just have one step ahead of a lot of other people just based on the sole fact that they've already worked in IT.
Yep.
So there's that.
Yeah, I'd also be curious, why did you start in something like ops versus development to begin with? You know what I mean? Like, why do you want to change? Is there a reason for it? Are you just chasing money? Or are you legitimately interested in a career change?
Right.
Depending on your answer to that, I'd give wildly different responses.
Yeah.
Is lynda.com a good website for programming? I do not know. I
never used Lynda. I've never used Lynda.
Afraid to type it into my browser.
Oh, Lynda's fine. I know exactly what Lynda is. I've just never used it. So what do you think of coding boot camps?
Oh, I think they're great. I think they're fantastic. I think it's a super quick and easy way for somebody to learn how to program just to see if they're interested in programming. They're usually super cheap. They're local. They don't last very long. Usually rapid paced. I think it would give you a very good idea if programming is something you're interested in and could be good at very quickly. So I love the concept of it.
Awesome. Have you ever done a boot camp?
I have never done a boot camp just because I went to school for it. So I got an 8-year boot camp.
We're going to have to get you through a boot camp.
Sure. That'd be fun.
Should try it.
Should pick a language that I've never done.
Exactly. That'd be fun. How do you troubleshoot code written by somebody else? You ever run across that? I'm sure you have.
Oh, every day.
Oh, awesome. So what do you do?
That's one of the things I actually want to make a video about. Is a lot of people think that going from school to the professional world, that you're just going to build everything by yourself. Everything's going to be the way you want it, but that's never the case, right? 95% of the code that I work on, I didn't write. It's all written by people who've come before me. So hopefully whoever wrote it beforehand gave you a lot of good code comments and explanation or external documentation on it. Usually that's not the case. So in terms of troubleshooting, I think you just have to have a good knowledge of the language you're working in and be able to kind of step through code. I think that's the easiest way to troubleshoot code that other people wrote, is stepping through it, figuring out where it breaks, understanding why it breaks, and then figuring out how to fix it.
How often do you leave comments in your code when you're going through it? Like, is it like very often?
Oh, absolutely. If a function of code is more than 20 lines, chances are it's too long. It should be broken into multiple functions. And if you have more than like 10 lines of code without any comment on it, you've gone too far.
No, is that like a standard, or is that just like where you work? That's what they require.
There's no real standard to it. Everybody has different feelings about it. I think well-written code and well-documented code, I should be able to read, say it's 200 lines long. I should be able to read 10 to 15 lines and completely understand overall what that file or process or script is doing without having to read every single line. The biggest thing in terms of code comments is, I believe it's important to explain your intent behind the lines that you're commenting on, and not a literal description of what the lines are below. So if you have, a line of code that adds A to B, you don't want a comment that just says, I'm adding A to B. Well, I could have read that line of code and understood that. Your code comment should explain why you're adding A to B.
Right. I was always curious about that, like why, like when and why people leave comments in their code to describe what's going on or what their thought process is through that.
Yeah, it's weird because in school you get a programming assignment and it's only you working on it, right? Usually you write a few hundred lines of code. You wrote it all so you understand it, so you don't feel the need to comment it. But when you are writing code that other people have to interact with, that's when it really becomes important.
Yeah, I understand that. That's why, like the last job I worked at, we had like a wiki that it's essentially like leaving comments for like, operations, for the ops side.
Yeah, we, even in terms of like commenting, we have standard operating procedures of how to take the raw code you written, commit it to our code repository, push it to our code review process, and then merge it into production. So even beyond commenting code, I believe it's important to have your process of coding documented.
Right. I agree. Trust the process doesn't leave any comment, just for job security. That's funny. Kenneth says they're new to IT field, no work experience. Best way to find an IT mentor. So you could go and look in your area to see if there's any meetups. That's going to be your best bet. See any type of technology meetups in your area. A lot of times, you might find that there's going to be different types of like maybe sysadmin meetups or networking meetups or cybersecurity meetups. There's always going to be some type of like techie meetup in like highly populated areas. So you might have to travel a little bit to go to some of those, but that is probably going to be your best bet. So,
are there any opportunities to find like mentors online?
I'm sure there probably is. I'm sure if you go on the Reddits or something, you can probably find a mentor there. Other than that, I'm not really sure what other resources are out there for something like that. Reddit seems to be like the first thing and the best thing that comes to mind for something of that magnitude there.
I bet there has to be some sort of website that's like findamentor.com.
Yeah, probably.
If it doesn't, we should start it.
There we go. So anyway, I know I have to get going here in a couple minutes. So just to kind of reiterate, yeah, there was my notification going off. And again, you are the Mr. Joe with the Code Corner, and you are going to be doing some coding development videos, talking about getting into the development field, giving some different advice about getting into that field, different tips, tricks, and all that fun stuff. In your own words, what else are you going to be doing over there?
So my plan right now is to give a good combination of career advice for people who want to get into programming, software development, as well as a lot of good practical coding advice and tutorials. So going over things from what should be on your resume, what shouldn't be on your resume, tips for interviewing, what common questions do people ask during programming interviews. And then I have a lot of ideas for actual like practical programming tutorials, like from the ground up. How do I build a blog? How do I do this? How do I get started with Angular? How do I get started with React? And I'm definitely open to any sort of ideas or things people want to learn. I'd love to hear what people are looking for in terms of programming advice and career advice. So if anybody has any videos or topics that they'd like to learn about, just drop them here, drop them on my channel.
I'm linking to the channel now. I hope that works. The link in the chat. Click on that link in the chat, see if it works.
Yep.
Works? Takes you to it?
Yep.
Awesome.
Takes me to my weird looking face on that thumbnail.
Yep. There you go. So that's this is Joe, and you guys should go over there, subscribe to his channel. We're gonna have a more official welcoming video coming out soon. The video that I talked to you about doing. I definitely want to do that.
Yeah,
more
sure.
of an intro. Hopefully you've been recording some more videos.
Yep.
But that's all we got for you guys today. So you got anything else to add, Mr. Joe?
No, not really. Just super excited to be here. Excited to have the opportunity to work with you. It's been way too long since we've chatted or had a chance to work together. So I'm super excited about that.
I'm super pumped up, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited to drop some programming knowledge bombs.
Me too. It's going to be good. So you guys can stay tuned for more videos from me. You guys can stay tuned for more videos from Joe. Make sure you guys go click on the link. I put the link in the description. There's also the link in the chat. So click on that. Go subscribe to him. And stay tuned for more. As always, take it easy.
Bye, guys.